All right, so one of the strategies that you can use for subtraction is called mental math. Mental math doesn't always mean that you're doing it in your head mentally, but it means that you're thinking about your math and you're showing what you're doing as you go. Okay? So you try to do most of the thinking in your head, but then you still write it on paper to show what it was. So if you were to use mental math to subtract 299 from 516, right? So 516 minus 299 is how we would write it. Right? If you were writing this in your notebook, I would first ask you, of course, to write it down so that you're lining up your numbers. Some of you didn't do that the other day when you were trying to do stuff at home, and you will find it very hard to get the right answer if you don't line up your ones, your tens, your hundreds, and your thousands. Okay? But Bruce uses a strategy called make a friendly number. He says 299, that's kind of harder for my brain to remember. So I'm going to add 1 to 299. That makes it 300. 300's easy to take away from anything. I can count back by 300, no problem. But because I'm going to make that number 1 bigger, I have to make the other number 1 bigger. Why? Why? Well, if I have 516 and I go to 299, if I make this 300 instead, what happens? I have a smaller jump from 516 to 300, don't I? I'm not jumping quite as far. So if I don't change the top number, or the bigger number, it's not going to get the right answer. Okay? So if I make 299 bigger by 1, I also have to make 516 bigger by 1 so that the space in between each number, doesn't change. Okay?
I know.
I know.
What happened? You took a picture.
So,
Yeah.
So, in your brain, then you switch to thinking, okay, in order to find 516 minus 299, I'm going to do 517 minus 300. Well, 500 minus 300 is 200. And then I had 517, so I have to give that 17 back. So the answer would be 217. Was that hard to do, Journey? Right. So you think of the answer, so then you have to remember to write down that answer for 516 minus 299 would also be 217. Because the space in between those two, the space here is 217, and the space here is 217. Had I gone from 516 to 300, that would only be 216, so it would be the wrong answer. So you have to make sure if you make one of the numbers bigger or smaller to become a friendly number, Jacob, then you make the other number change by exactly the same amount, because the space in between those two numbers can't change. Right? If the space between the numbers changes, then you're doing a different math question.